So there really was a storm. No, really. This episode featured a flash flood in New Orleans that pretty much gave the setting to the scene of each character. But I find it interesting that I don't know if you all remember in my prior episode discussion for episode 10 of season 4 Queen Sugar, I said that there was a storm coming. I would just like to say this, I did not mean that literally. I did not mean there was going to be an actual storm. So I find it very ironic that an actual storm took place here on episode 11 when I just called out that the storm was coming in episode 10. But again, I did not mean that literally. But this episode was definitely a great setup for and a great preview for what is to come as far as the actual storm that I was referring to. So anyway, in this episode, it's a lot going on. Okay, we have Micah and his girlfriend attempting to go to prom with their friends. We have Charlie rather practicing her campaign speech. We have it's Nova's birthday, ironically. We have Hollywood and Vi at their house, and then we have Ralph Angel, who goes from Deisha's house, the attorney that he has been seeing, and who is also the mother to Blue's playmate. And we see him go from her house to Darla's house. So this episode was quite interesting, but again, the setting of it all was the storm. So anyway, starting with Hollywood and Vi, because they seem to have the shortest, I would say the shortest amount of scenes in this episode. I'm not sure if I'm accurate on that, but it just seems like their scenes were really quick. Hollywood and Vi, we can see, are really getting back to normal, if that's what you want to call it. They're getting back to themselves. But actually, I also want to say they're progressing as well. I feel like with any relationship, there should always be growth, just like with any individual person, there should be growth. And then in a relationship, there should always be growth. What I really love about Hollywood and Vi is that they have, prior to marriage, and continue to keep their lines of communication open. And I love that Hollywood is not afraid to express his dreams to Vi, and Vi's not afraid to express her dreams to Hollywood. In fact, it was Hollywood who helped her get her diner that she had always desired. And now Hollywood, who honestly I've never even heard express any dreams other than being with Vi, has revealed to Vi that he's very interested in opening up like some sort of man center where black men can come together and convene with one another about life, and it'll be like a safe zone, a safe space. So I really enjoyed seeing that and hearing Vi really listen to him, encourage him with that, and offer some suggestions as far as the title of the place go. We see Vi and Hollywood interacting with one another again. This is important because we're coming from episodes where we see Vi struggling to allow Hollywood back into her space after the whole Jimmy Dale incident, and to see them at this point where not only are they interacting more successfully with one another and happily with one another, but she's allowing Hollywood to physically touch her more. I noticed that as well. We also see that she gives him a bath and pretty much gives him a good massage, and that's where they're able to have this intimate conversation in regards to Hollywood's dreams. So I really enjoyed their scenes in this episode. They seem to have the most calm scenes within this episode. Next we have Micah, who, and I'm not going in any particular order, but so don't pay attention to the order that I'm going in. But anyway, next we have Micah, who is with his friends. Now all of his friends, including his girlfriend, are supposed to be on their way to prom. We have been hearing in prior episodes that they have this prom coming up, and Micah and his girlfriend is trying to figure out if they're going to get this separate room. As a matter of fact, Micah took it upon himself to actually get a separate room without telling Kiki, his girlfriend. At least I think that's what her name is. Micah took it upon himself to get the separate room without telling his girlfriend. And that separate room was actually revealed in the joint room that all of them got together. Micah, his girlfriend, and all of their friends from school got together. And it's a little awkward because it comes out that Micah has the separate room, which insinuates to the friends that they pretty much understand what Micah and his girlfriend plan on doing on prom night. I mean, it's no secret that is like this urban legend of what prom night is supposed to be. So it kind of embarrasses Micah and his girlfriend, especially. Micah's very honorable when it comes to his girlfriend. He's he respects her. He respects her. He just has respect for her, genuinely has respect for her. So I know he wouldn't want to put her in that predicament where the friends are pretty much joking about them having this extra room because they're insinuating what they're going to do with it. And, he doesn't want his girlfriend to feel like everyone's in their business and to embarrass her. So they have a conversation, him and his girlfriend, in regards to this extra room and what they're going to do. And they both pretty much agree it's just not the right time. It doesn't feel right. Then you have this storm that comes that pretty much cancels prom. So prom, the classmates, including Micah, or the schoolmates, including Micah, end up getting this joint text alert that due to the flash flood that has touched down in St. Joe, or around or wherever they are at, it shut down the prom. So prom was canceled for that night. So even though prom was canceled and they were disappointed, they all seem to have had a pretty interesting night. They just hung together. Their friend, it sounds like their friend Ant. Now, we all remember Ant. He took the fall for burning down that historical site, which was actually a plantation, a slavery plantation. He took the fall for that burning down. Even though all of them were present, Micah and his friends were all present except for Micah's girlfriend. The other friend did take the fall. And now it sounds like that he has been released from incarceration, but he chose not to come out with them that night. And so that was interesting to learn too, because I was still under the impression that he was incarcerated, but it sounds like he has been released. So the friends pretty much all spent the night just in that hotel room, just kind of talking about their future. And everyone had like these unique ideas, an affordable bail bonds company. And then you had the one young lady talk about how she wants to have create clinics around the area that's affordable, especially for the individuals who may not be able to afford good health care. But when it came down to Micah saying what he wants to do or where he's going to be in 10 years, he really was quite uncertain. And I don't find that abnormal at all. I personally struggled with that when I was about Micah's age as well, to be honest. There were so many things I wanted to do, but I talked myself out of doing in order to appease others. But also too, it felt like everyone around me was very clear on their goals, and yet I wasn't. So that's not exactly unheard of. What I will suggest is that he does get some type of mentoring or guidance to assist him along the way, to help him find clarity on exactly what it is he wants to focus on doing, or attempting to figure out what it is he wants to do. So that's pretty much what happened involving the scene with Micah, his girlfriend, and the other friends of theirs that were supposed to go to prom. Prom was pretty much canceled due to the storm, and they all found themselves just staying in the hotel and just kind of talking about their future. So then we have Nova. So Miss Nova is with her cop friend, whose name I cannot remember right now. Calvin, that's it. So Nova is with her friend Calvin, and Calvin is coming to see Nova, because remember, Calvin does not stay in New Orleans near Nova. He stays somewhere else, so he has to commute basically to see Nova. So he comes to visit Nova for her birthday, and what I find to be sweet, they were going to go out to a restaurant, but suddenly that storm hit, so they recognized they were not going out. And Nova was like, "Oh, I'll cook." And Calvin was like, "No, I'll cook. It's your birthday. I'll do it." And I just thought that was really sweet, because what we're used to seeing Calvin and Nova from earlier seasons is we're used to seeing, for one, Calvin was a creep and Nova wasn't much better because he was married and he pretty much was cheating on his wife, and Nova wasn't better because she knowingly was messing around with him while he was married. But now that Calvin is officially divorced, I assume, if I might have missed that information or not, I assume he's officially divorced, and there sounds like there's joint custody with the children, and he's pretty much moving forward in his life. We can see that Nova and Calvin are trying to get back together, and it's quite different from what we're used to seeing Calvin and Nova as far as these scenes go, because for the most part, Calvin and Nova didn't really have a relationship. It was more built off of physical than anything else. So with this episode, we get to see Calvin and Nova interact on a level that I personally am not used to seeing with prior seasons. it's beautiful to see, because we're not just seeing them jump into being physical with one another. They're actually taking time to get to know one another and have fun with one another, have conversations with one another, talk about their future, talk about their present. So it's pretty interesting to see. And what we also learn is that they're having this conflict with their schedules of figuring out when is the next time they're going to see each other, because again, Calvin is commuting to see Nova, and suddenly it just becomes Calvin telling her, like, I'm going to move here, I'm going to move to New Orleans. I'd rather have to commute to work than to have to miss out on seeing you because of the distance. So I thought that was pretty cool too. Nova looks excited about it, but I think it's going to be interesting to continue to watch that unfold, due to the fact that Nova's family, well, for one, Nova isn't even all that good standing with her family. We see that she's making great progress with Charlie, but that's about it. But even when she does finally get her family's forgiveness and begin to enter their space again, now we're talking about if she gets really close with Calvin and they take it a step beyond where he starts to meet her family, they already know about Calvin and who Calvin was and who Calvin is, as far as being a Caucasian male, as far as being a former officer, and not to mention when Nova was initially messing around with Calvin, he was married. So those are a lot of strikes against Calvin when it comes to the family. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see if and when they embrace Nova, if they will actually embrace Calvin all the same. So again, it's I personally enjoy seeing Calvin and Nova together. That's just me. But I would say in prior seasons I did not necessarily enjoy seeing them together because of the fact that Calvin was married. And then learning later on that he had witnessed police brutality amongst co-workers and did absolutely nothing. That was another thing that had me pretty iggy about him. But now that he's no longer an officer, he's no longer married, and he seems to be a completely different Calvin, a more improved Calvin, a more mature Calvin, a more understanding Calvin, a more responsible Calvin. Now I'm like, yes, that's great for Nova. And Nova even seems to be growing as well, seems to have matured as well, and owns up to her mistakes. I don't think that's what we are used to seeing with Nova in the prior seasons. Her owning up to her mistakes. I really think we're starting to see growth in Nova because she's owning up to a lot of things that she has done and how she has hurt individuals. So moving on from that, we have Ralph Angel. Oh my goodness, Ralph Angel, y'all. Now, if you've been watching my videos on these Queen Sugar discussions, you would know I did not want Ralph Angel to get back with Darla. I don't know if I'm not gonna say I never want them to be back together again, but I was really rooting for Ralph Angel and Deesha, only because of the fact that Darla has seemed to have put Ralph Angel through enough. Darla has put herself through enough. I feel like with these characters, I know it's only so much time within an episode, but it just seems like the writers are just constantly trying to push Darla back on Ralph Angel, and she's too codependent. She's an an alcoholic rather. She has pretty much relapsed, but then she's codependent. When is Darla going to learn to stand on her own? And I don't believe that if Ralph Angel keeps coddling her, she's going to ever get a chance to stand on her own. Now, I don't have anything against Ralph Angel having feelings for Darla, and I don't have anything against him with being honest with Deesha. I prefer it that way. I prefer he don't waste Deesha's time, that Deesha is a mother. Even if Deesha wasn't, it's only fair to be honest with her about who he really wants to be with. So I respect the fact that Ralph Angel has come out and told Deesha that he is still in love with Darla. I feel like that is great because we can clearly see it, and I think Deesha in the end could probably see it as well. But what I do have an issue with is Ralph Angel and Darla trying to be together right now. Now, I'm not saying that is what is happening. I do know, we just had a scene, or there was a scene in this episode where Darla is asking Ralph Angel, do you think we can ever get back to who we were? Do you think about us or whatever? And he goes, I think about us all the time, and I think about it all the time. So that pretty much, in my opinion, insinuates at some point in time they're going to get back together. But I just hope that Ralph Angel takes his time, gives Darla some space, whether she asks for it or not, or whether she wants him to be closer, because she really has to learn. Darla has to learn to stand on her own and fight her demons on her own. Or the moment someone runs out of her life, say if if her and Ralph Angel got back together and they don't work out, Darla, in my opinion, will only relapse again, because it just seems like she's so codependent. And to be honest, she seemed kind of spoiled. I mean, we have been introduced to her parents in prior seasons, and we know that her parents are pretty well to do. Darla seems pretty spoiled, but at the same time, I believe they spoiled her more lavishly with monetary value versus emotional support and love. So they seem like they might have compensated with money instead of giving her the emotional support and love that she needed, which is probably why she's a little, off the hinges. But anyway, like I said, I would just love for them to slow down. Ralph Angel be there for when he can, but not allow Darla to become codependent on him. She has to learn how to stand on her own, or I can foresee a relapse coming. Also, Darla seems to be having issues with seeing Blue at the moment. I assume she just doesn't want Blue to see her like this, especially since she just relapsed. But a part of me was wondering, does she not want to see Blue because it will remind her of the fact that she does not know who his father is, and that now it's not just a possibility of one man being Blue's father, it's actually a possibility of two. Anyway, moving on finally to Charlie and Jacob Boudreaux. So we see that Charlie initially was practicing her campaign speech at Aunt Vi's Prize Pies and Diner with Nova, but Nova left to go back home to see Calvin for her birthday. So Charlie said she would just practice on her own. And suddenly Jacob Boudreaux walks in. And I'm like, really, Jacob? Really? Now, you're not supposed to be at that diner. But I guess he's going to have a night where he's able to come there and practice too. But it was just happened to be her night currently. So it ends up when the storm happens, Charlie gets stuck at the diner with Jacob, but it's actually a good thing, because her and Jacob Boudreaux has like this back and forth exchange with one another. And the whole thing about Jacob this entire time is that he's different from his family. He's different, but then he's not. We can't ignore the fact that he has been raised by a bigot woman. We can't erase that. This female that raised Jacob is a bigot. And of course, because of that, we're pretty sure that Jacob has a bigot mindset as well, due to the fact that's how he was raised. However, what we get to see, and what I believe Charlie is now seeing, is that even though this was Jacob's life and this has been the way he's been raised, and this is the family that he come from, he doesn't necessarily identify with it. It's not what he wants his life to be. And he's been trying to show Charlie time and time again that he wants to be on the right side of things, that this is bigger than him. But if he had it his way, he would do whatever it takes to show Charlie, especially show Charlie, if you know what I mean, that he is not like his family. So the two ends up sitting down, getting together, and apparently Nova got some information in regards to the Landry family, and this information is information that we see Charlie share with Jacob in this scene, because Jacob's like, he can't pull out the race as Charlie wants him to. He can't do that, not the way things are set up, because it's basically set up for him to win, is what he's come to tell Charlie. And he pretty much is, I missed that part, but he pretty much comes to tell Charlie at the diner she just needs to stop while she's ahead. This thing is bigger than them. It's already been set up that he's going to win. So he tells her he wants to do the right thing. She tells him to drop out the race. He tells her he can't do that, but that if there was a way that he could throw the race, then he would do that, which is what leads to Charlie revealing this information given to her by Nova in regards to the Landry family. So it leaves us wondering in this scene, like, what is the information that she's sharing with Jacob? So in the end, we end up seeing Charlie on the phone with Nova, telling Nova, she's got this plan going on, turn on the TV. And then we see Jacob on TV holding this press conference about his family and about the information that he received from Charlie, although he does not specifically say, of course, on TV that he received this information from his opponent, of course, Charlie. However, he does reveal that the information he received had to do with the fact that the way the Landry business has been running was based off of race. So, we're basically being told that his family's company practices racism, and that it turns out his great grandmother is an African American woman who was part of the Bordelon family. So does that make Jacob and Charlie distant cousins? Like, ew, you can't be hitting on your cousin, Jacob. You just can't do that out here in these streets. So that was very big information. I'm still a little confused, and I hope I explained that correctly, but I wrote it down, and I believe it was his great grandmother. So it's not like great, but either way it goes, it was great grandmother, I believe. So it was a great grandmother, but I think it's great grandmother. And indeed, she was African American, and she, on top of it, she was part of the Bordelon family. So I think this whole entire situation is bananas. I also want to emphasize that the reason this is important information is because Jacob and Charlie, I assume, believes this is a way that is going to get Jacob to pretty much throw the election, that if he reveals this information, he'll lose African American, whoever is supporting him that's African American, and voters. He'll lose those voters, as well as Caucasian voters who may be bigots themselves and not care for the fact that his great grandmother was an African American woman. And that's pretty much what Nova is betting on. I personally, when I was watching that press conference given by Jacob, I honestly thought he was going to use that information to his advantage. I thought he was going to turn around and say, not only am I revealing that my family is racist and practicing racist methods with their business, but that my great great grandmother is African American, and I thought he was going to be like trying to use that information to actually gain African American votes, not lose them. So it's going to be very interesting to watch this unfold. If Jacob is really true to Charlie, and I believe he is, that he really wants to be not like his family, he really wants to, pretty much in my opinion, he just wants to please Charlie. But at the same time, it does seem like it goes beyond Charlie as well. It seems like he does kind of care about the people, but it seemed like it took Charlie to take him there, to get him to understand the evil of his family. So if he's really serious about what he's doing and what he has committed as far as to Charlie with this information and their plan, then I know this is going to make for some great TV in a minute. Like, we are getting ready to see something go down, and something go down in a big way, and there is no telling. I am very curious to know what that family, the Landrys and / Boudreaux, plan on doing to handle Jacob and pretty much his betrayal. So that's it. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. I'll see you all next week for next episode. Peace.